Hi, welcome back to the Arnell School of Fine Art. Glad you could join me again today. We're on the second program or lesson on this particular painting. We're going to have a lot of fun. We have a lot of work to do, so we'll get started here in just a second. Now, remember, we're talking about Impressionism. This particular show is, and the next couple are dealing with the Impressionist way of painting. Now, I love good Impressionism, but bad Impressionism is not good either, okay? So, you know, it's good to learn it the proper way. You can be a good painter, but have poor techniques and your painting still doesn't work. So my job as a teacher is to give you good basics so that you can improve and increase all your skill levels so that when you start doing these things, it'll all fall into place for you. Now, we left off last week putting in our basic trees here. We're going to continue with the underpainting, similarly to like we normally do, except instead of, like I said before, putting it all dark and then come back and highlighting, we kind of put light and dark contrast as we go, and some of that we just leave, because the secret to a good Impressionist painting is exactly what the word means. We only want to create the suggestion or the impression of an object. We know that that's a tree. I don't have to do anything else but look at it and I know that's a tree. I don't have to put every little limb, every little leaf on there. I've created the impression of it with just simple strokes. We use wider brushes, quicker strokes. We don't spend as much effort in it as usual. Now we're going to pick back up right here, kind of separating, creating some contour. And I remember I mentioned last week I've got a series of photographs here I took at a park in our community here called Woodward Park. This is in the springtime when the azaleas are really blooming. Lots of little streams and little ponds and trees and azaleas and rock formations and bridges and dogwoods. Look at this. It's just beautiful array of all these different colors. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of this material to put in here after we get the underpainting, okay? So that's basically what these are for, to sort of get some of the detail work later on. Now we left our sky kind of loose and free, which I like. We got some good clean color. Now we got to start working in our groundwork like we did over here. Pick up your number 10 bristle brush again. I'm going to wipe it out. Now remember, Impressionism requires a lot of discipline to leave it alone when you put it on there. The 3 P's really apply here. Don't piddle, play, or putter. Okay, starting right in through here, I'm going to put a little sunlight to separate this tree from this group of bushes, using a little white and a little phthalo yellow green here. And sometimes just quick little touches. Usually you paint a little thicker, well, almost always, and quicker. The stroke goes on and you leave it alone. You don't piddle with it. Now see what this does? I can pull up quick little suggestions of bushes or whatever, and see the nice little contrast against that tree. That sets that tree behind. All right, gives it a nice touch, and you kind of go in between and it separates this from this. Now, just kind of scatter some of this over here. This is what's neat about it, is you kind of skip around. Notice how you use quick strokes, kind of soften. You're creating that nice touch of light against dark, wonderful contrast. Now, come down here, we're going to darken that mixture using our Hooker's green. Now this show specifically and our last show are designed just to basically get it all on there, okay? Find the lights and darks, and then we'll go into some of the more exciting detail work. I want this kind of dark right here. Notice I'm putting on loose and free, not getting in any big hurry. And I know that sounds funny because it looks like we're really moving, but what I'm saying is I'm in no hurry to finish the painting, but I don't spend a lot of time piddling with it either because of the technique we use. I'm not just putting this on quickly because I'm in a hurry to finish it. I'm doing it because that's what the technique calls for. Now, see over here, I put a little bush. Once you finally get the hang of this dark and light thing and you're learning how to make a stroke to create a bush or a grass, it really gets exciting. Now this area right in through here should be more of a sunlit area. And now I'm probably noticed I'm kind of sticking to some of the spring scene colors. And if you don't like that, that's fine, but the technique applies whether you're doing fall or summer or whatever. Now let's take the yellow, the phthalo yellow green, let's put a little orange in it. And let's go up here like this, and see, all I'm going to do is just dry brush in this color. Tinge more orange to it, not too much. See, the paint's on pretty thick. Now, there are going to be quite a few trees in here, so we're going to get some more trunks in here in a minute. But notice how loose and free and sort of haphazard it is, and yet, well, I say that word kind of carefully because even though it looks haphazard and kind of unorganized, if you're thinking in your head and you've got good brush mind control, then it's not such a mess after all. It has purpose. It has a point, you know, and that's exactly where a good impressionist works. Every stroke means something. See, it's loose. Sometimes I'm learning how to twist the brush to create an effect. That's what it's all about. So I love that look, just kind of real loose and free. Let's go back and work on a road. Now, I like this little concept of having a little drop off right there. That's where we're going to have a large tree with some shadows coming across. So let's go ahead and pick up our number 6 bristle brush. Let's take some burnt sienna, a little purple, and a touch of blue. And that gives us that nice, rich, dark color. But see how watery that is? That's way too much water. We have to have an opaque effect here in order for this to do what it's designed to do, okay? So you got to stay away from the water. So back to the sienna, a little purple, a touch of blue. There we go. And here again, this is a fairly dark area. Put it on there nice and loose. Reload. And in Impressionism, you load a lot. You don't mix as much on the palette. You do mix most of your mixing up here. Now see how nice and loose and free. I'm not sitting there picking and piddling. And I guarantee you, folks, when this painting is finished, if you handle it correctly and you use loose but yet controlled strokes, I promise you, this, when you stand back at the average distance, it's going to look almost realistic. I mean, that's just the nature of it. We create the impression of rocks and pebbles and dirt and ruts and all that stuff here. Now, as we come out into the road, this is interesting. We start working into some more earthy tones, like where the sun's coming in. So we come down here to our palette using white again. We pick up some sienna and orange and red and yellow. I mean, just some of the earth tones. I keep it more on the orangish side. And so you just put it on out here, all right? And we begin the process of blending the road here. And we're going to take a few minutes on this, so you might as well settle down and get used to it. But you want to have a very good dirt type of a road, you know, that looks like it's got a lot of traffic on it. Like I said, we may put a mud puddle or two in here. Notice the strokes. They're going all directions. That's the neat thing about Impressionism is you use a good variety of strokes, and I love the way that looks already. Isn't that exciting? Looks just like an old country road there. Now, a lot of you are already fussing. I can just hear it thinking, oh, man, I can't leave all those brush strokes. I can't leave those scratchy. Look, it's all about distance. So when you stand back and look at it, it should have a nice appeal. Now, this is a great spot to have some light coming through right through here, because we're going to have a large tree on this little cliff right here, and then we'll have a shadow. So let's put some more light right out there. Look at this. Isn't this fun? Now, this is what I'm talking about. Now, if you just put it on there like that, and you're just putting it on just to cover the canvas. That's being out of control, okay? I can do the same kind of strokes, and yet I'm refining as I go. It may look like I'm not in control, but every time I put on a stroke, I'm thinking, I'm creating something that's conducive to the flow of the land, or the contour of the land, or the composition of the structure. So don't just put it on just to cover the canvas. Be thinking. Every stroke has a purpose, okay? And then you will go very well with your eye and your hand will coordinate very well. Now, over here on the right-hand side, for instance, I'm going to come down here. Now, this is going to be my little ridge. You know, I'm going to put it on quick and loose. I know that the road's got to look flat, so, you know, I don't want to sit here and do things that wouldn't make it look flat. And I want this to kind of drop off here. So as it comes out in here, notice it's sort of comma strokes. It may look loose and free, and of course I'm going to have probably ruts in the road, and like I said, maybe some mud puddles or something, and we need to get that in here. Now, as we come to the foreground, you know, we're going to darken that fairly substantially. You know, it's a pretty good idea most of the time when you're doing a landscape painting, especially one like this, to darken your corners, especially down in the foregrounds here, because it kind of helps pull your eye back into the painting and stay focused wherever it is that you're trying to stay focused. All right, now, let's move on into that using the sienna and a little white there with the purple. And see how I'm... Now that's a little too thin still. I've got to put a little more paint in there. So you got to be careful when you're doing this that you stay real consistent with your thickness. And I don't mean that you have to be so careful about it that you go nuts worried about it. You just don't want to have a lot of transparent spots and then a lot of real opaque spots where it looks kind of goofy. Be fairly consistent. And don't worry about the thickness. I mean, the brush strokes. Whenever you put a stroke on there, that's folks, that's what gives your painting its character. See, I'm not just going to put a stroke on like that and leave it. I mean, if I just put it on, I'm going to go back, I'm going to kind of quickly refine it and kind of blend it into the format of the road. Okay, so there is some stuff going on here that is very, very controlled, believe it or not. Now see here, I kind of scrub it in where I'm the first suggestion of some ruts, but I'm not going to go up here, hold up like this, get real close and paint them in carefully. That's not going to work. You can already tell just by looking at it on your show, on the show there, how wonderful and dirt-like this is starting to be. Okay, now we take the sienna and the purple again, pretty exclusively just those two colors down here in the corner. Boy, this is getting exciting. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick up some white and orange. Now generally you use more paint when you do this. That's pretty obvious. Just because you put it on thicker and you leave it, you don't go back and clean it up too much. There, I just picked a little orange and white because I want to create a little bit of a drop off here, and I want to put a little texture in it. So I'm putting some little choppier strokes on the edge, little comma strokes there. See, I'm kind of touching in where I want my ruts to go. Just smudging in some little dark lines. But I'm not getting too carried away. But already, see, it looks like a meandering, rutted road. I really like this effect. Now, let's go over here on the corner now. But we don't have to do much else to the road right now. We will add some rocks and highlights and things later. Let's build in our grasses there. We'll go back to our number 10 bristle brush now. And again, it just boils down here to just a variety of colors. I need to get some more green. You need a lot of the Hooker's green out here, and it's mostly going to be the darker values with a smidgen of the, a little bit of phthalo yellow green here and there, maybe a little orangish green. Okay, now take the green, the sienna, and the purple. Notice it's real thick. I mean, it's just really on there. It's going to probably scare you when you see how thick that is. But this is how this works, folks. You've got to have good, rich contrast in a painting like this in order for things to happen. Okay, now here I just want to kind of suggest little bushes like this. Going to work on down through here like this. And pick up a little phthalo yellow green. See what I'm doing here is I'm building in some contrast. Once again, this is that contrast thing that we're talking about, but notice I'm being loose and free. I'm not spending a lot of time trying to refine it yet. See, just quick, loose strokes. Now, I know that some of you right now are saying, oh, I just can't do it. I can't leave it so unfinished. And so, hey, it's not a matter of leaving it unfinished. It's a matter of this is the appropriate way to handle an impressionistic style of painting. I'll tell you, I know some artists, some very well-known artists, who are very detailed artists, but they will, on many occasions, just throw paint on a canvas like this to create an impressionistic piece just to keep loose, because you can get too tight, even if you're a super realist, and sometimes it can get you in trouble. But look at that beautiful contrast between these two areas, the dark green and the little nice shapes in that create the pockets of negative space. We've already created the impression of bushes, okay, without a lot of detail. So that's what we're after. I promise this is going to be a great opportunity for you to really increase your painting abilities. Now here I'm just putting a little darker here. Creating a little bush there. Here. So I'm just softening, but now this is where we're going to get into the fun later when we start adding things, where we put the flowers in there and little limbs and the bigger tree trunks, and you'll see how all this falls into place. Now you can see as we're closing in towards the last half of this show, we're almost done with the impressionistic way of underpainting, okay? We have one more little corner here, and then we'll have a little bit more to do on some of the middle ground stuff. And then we'll start in on some of what we call the middle ground, or the intermediate highlighting and the intermediate details. All right, now going back over here to this, basically the same dark color, the green, the purple, and a little smidgen of sienna. That's pretty dark, but that's what you want, okay? Now here also you want to create sort of a suggestion of a bush or two. Put that on nice and thick. Now, at this stage of the game, if you want to switch to your number 6 bristle brush, that's fine, but I've just learned to manipulate this little brush here to create all kinds of effects, and it works good. Now, here's a spot that's going to show up against this little bank right there. Okay, and now this is where you have to be thinking, again, you got to think ahead. Now, I know that's hard for some of us. We kind of touch this bush up a little bit. Then we're going to highlight this area against the road right there. Okay, now this little spot right there, we're going to take a little phthalo yellow green, a little touch of white. See, this is a great little contrasting thing to put in there, and it adds a nice little character to the painting. Oh, I really like that. So you just kind of dry brush and pull the bank over. See, I'm just kind of moving my brush around. I'm not creating any particular thing. I'm just moving it. And see, look at all the unique brush strokes. This is what, now stand back and look at that. I'm serious. I'm looking at our monitor here. That looks so great on the show, and I know you're having fun with it, and I really hope yours is turning out well for you. It's just really a lot of fun. Now we're going to start back in here in the middle ground areas, and possibly back here in the sky, adding a few clouds, a couple of highlights to the hillsides, and begin really putting in what we call the accenting or the impressionistic details. Now, those are different than some of the things we've done before where we're really careful and refined. But before we do that, I want to get a piece of charcoal, because we do this the same as we do in our other paintings. I want to locate where I may have some other subjects. Number one, I really would like to have a little building here. Maybe just the rooftop of this house right back here would be good. And I'll show you when we paint this, an impressionistic way of painting the building is we just use quick strokes and just leave it. We don't spend a lot of time softening it and graying it, and we try to get that done pretty much in its one or two strokes. Okay, so we'll have this little building sitting here, which will be a lot of fun. And then we'll probably have a couple more trees behind it, but we're going to put a couple of clouds in there first. And I'm going to have some larger trees that go all the way off the canvas that kind of will overlap into the painting, and then a larger one here, which will give us some of the feeling that I was talking to you about in these photographs, where we have the large trees. See, they go all the way up, and they kind of leaf out over the painting, and that gives us some of the, like this one especially. And we did this painting, I think, here, several weeks ago, a long time ago here on the show of the old bridge, but I love these photographs. I see here's some great with the trees and all the different leaves and the different colors. Here's a great one with the limb hanging down, see, into the painting. That would be marvelous. Maybe we'll put some of these red azaleas in there, or pink, or whatever. See these tree trunks, those are going to look great in this painting. So we've got a lot of work to do, and so I'm going to recommend that you maybe have some ideas of your own. You don't have to use my trees, but maybe you've got some photographs or reference material at your home too, where you can start using those. Okay. Now let's go back here and take our number 6 bristle brush. Let's go ahead and lay our clouds in. Okay, rinse that brush out good. Make sure it's relatively clean. It doesn't have to be perfectly clean, but relatively. Now let's take your gesso. Add just a smidgen of the alizarin crimson to it. You just barely want to tint it. You don't want it to be real white, but you don't want it to be too pink either. And then just take that and just come up here like this. And all I want you to do is you just kind of smudge in where you think some clouds would go. And that's all you do. So you just smudge. This is a very similar technique that we've used before. Not just a whole lot of difference. But it's kind of fun to get some wispy clouds in here to add a little character to the painting and to kind of help give it a little contrast. I just think it's fun to lay these clouds in there. Now you can come up there higher if you want to, but notice we're going to have a lot of other things in here, some trees and things. All right, now just kind of soften that in a little bit. Again, you don't want any real hard edges. Maybe a little bit there of a wisp. Now, remember our sunlight's coming in from the left-hand side of the painting, And folks, that's a critical thing to remember, because now it tells us where to start highlighting the edges of our trees and things over here and over here, and that's the next step. Now, very quickly, though, let's take our charcoal again here. Where did I put that? Let's lay in approximately where the larger trunks are going to go. I just want to get this compositionally in my head, okay? You need to do the same thing. I'm going to have one here, probably a double one standing right there like that. Probably going to have a couple of smaller ones in here. Now these will go all the way off the canvas, okay? A couple of smaller ones right in through here. I'm pretty convinced I'm going to have a couple small ones behind the building, okay, to create some contrast. And I'm going to have one here that kind of leans into the painting, that's sort of between this clump of brush and this area here. Now these are not real wide trees. Don't sketch them in real wide, okay? And then over here on this side, we're going to have this great big one, okay? And it's going to lean into the painting like this. And it's it's a fairly straight trunk tree, but it's a wide tree. And then we're going to have the shadow from that coming down here and across the ground. Now this is what we're going to do next week when we meet, is start applying all the other subjects and objects that give this painting its true character. And I promise you folks, if you'll stick with me, not get impatient, not get frustrated, this impressionistic painting may in fact be one of the better paintings you've ever done, okay? I guarantee it. So here's your homework assignment for next week. Get it all caught up, sketch in your basic objects, kind of get everything under control, do some practicing on your technique, and I promise you, you'll have a good time, okay? Well, God bless you, stay inspired, keep painting, and I'll see you again real soon right here on another Yarnell School of Fine Art.